Good afternoon, and welcome to the 10th annual Smithfield Township Black History Symposium. My name is Donnie Joyner, for those who don't know who I am, and this is our 10th year, and we're going to start it off like we did last night with a little small prayer. Let us bow our heads and pray. Dear Heavenly Father, once again, we'd like to say thank you. Thank you for waking us up this morning in our right minds, and thank you for allowing us to assemble here today for this program on Black history. Lord, I ask that you give us the wisdom and the guidance to carry this program on in a manner that is pleasing in your sight and to everyone else. And these and all blessings, Jesus, in your name, amen. And now we will have the Pledge of Allegiance. I will do the Pledge of Allegiance, and you can follow along. You're still supposed to be muted, but I'm gonna start it off now. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. And now, moving right along, we're going to have the welcome, like last night, from the Honorable Joe Pat Hayden, Mayor of Southport.
He should be here now. He got kicked out and is reconnecting.
Okay, well, that's
Mayor Hayden?
He should be on a minute. We apologize for that little glitch. The mayor got kicked out.
Let's see if he's coming back in.
You see him back in yet?
Yep. He's in, Mr. Mayor.
I'm here. Thank you.
There we go. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, you got the floor.
Oh, well, thank you, Donnie. And looking forward to this afternoon's presentations. I think last night was marvelous. And, today we keep the, momentum going, and just looking forward to your presentation. And I'm grateful to be here, and I hope our citizens will either watch this live or either see it on tape. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And a little later, you'll see it on the slide. We want to thank him because he's doing a marvelous job. And without the city's cooperation, this would be more difficult to perform this. And normally on our, I don't think Ms. Roberts not on here, right? Okay, so we're going to skip the introduction to the speaker because the speaker is me. So my name is Donnie Joyner, and I was raised here in Southport. I went to Brunswick County Training School / Brunswick County High School. They changed the name before I graduated in 1967. I moved away for a short period. I left in 2000. I left, I believe it was 1974, and I came back in 2002. It was just a short stay. And when I got back, I got into the history of it. Today, we're going to have a program. It's called Willie Evelyn. And if you would, Liz, would you bring up the slide for me, if you don't mind? Okay. What you see at the beginning is this was Black History Month. Mayor Hayden giving Gwen Waring, and that is Art Newton's daughter, and alongside of her is Emma Miles receiving the award. And we've gotten one from the mayor every year that he's been in office, and we duly appreciate that. We will read that proclamation on the air tomorrow on the Sunday's Gospel Fest. Next slide, please. This is Harold Johnson. He was Dr. Willie Evelyn Reaves' classmate. And when I got Harold, I asked him to say a few words, and what he did was he went back and he helped me out, because between Harold and Marion, Marion, most of it I got from them because I knew of her, but I knew not much. So what's going to happen is we're going to show you this clip first of Harold speaking from his heart about his classmate. So Liz, would you hit the
Donnie, I'm not sure. Let me just try it. I'm not sure you're gonna be able to hear it. So let me just start it and then you tell
I
me.
can hear it. Okay. I think you got to hit that little button. It's
Right.
slide it down.
Can you hear him?
No. Okay. There. Now you hit that button now to go. It's go back over it again. All right. Wait a minute. Let's see here.
I don't think you can hear him.
I
Hold
don't
on.
hear it.
I know. I have to do something different. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Hold on just a
I
second.
guess what? Share the volumes.
Yeah, I forgot there were video clips. Hold on just a second.
Yes. Okay. All right, folks. I would sing in the intermission, but I don't want to run anybody away. So.
She graduated from Willie Reaves was born.
Can you hear him now?
Willie Reaves was born July 27, 1940, to the parents of Marion and Lena Reeves of Bolivia, NC. One of 9 siblings, Willie attended Piney Elementary School in Bolivia. She graduated from Brunswick County School in Southport, North Carolina, as class valedictorian in 1957. She relocated to Washington, D.C. later in that year, was employed by the U.S. Postal Service. While working for the Postal Service, Willie enrolled at Howard University School of Dentistry. While employed at U.S. Postal Service, Ms. Reeves faced some discrimination practices, for which she immediately addressed with North Carolina Senator Jordan, who looked into her complaint and congratulated her for standing up for her rights. Thereafter, she received a letter of apology. After graduation, Ms. Reeves worked into private practice for 6 months. Thereafter, she was employed at Howard University Dental School. Willie Reeves was married to Mr. Edward Turpin in 1970, a teacher in education at Washington, D.C. school system. Willie Reeves was a Bible scholar, loved history and traveling. A really miss my classmate and friend, Dr. Willie Evelyn Reaves. Thank you.
Okay, Liz, hit the next slide. I put that in the front because after I listened to it and I sort of tweaked it a little bit, it was sort of moving when you think about it. Here's a man that was talking about his classmates, someone he knew. I mean, when we're dealing with history, if we're talking about Frederick Douglass and all that, it's a different thing if you only talk about what you know that you read. But this man had actually been her classmate from grade school all the way through high school. And then after high school, they went in 2 different directions. And this presentation, I added that last night because, I don't know, something told me that was a better way of doing it than I actually had. And we were calling it Willie Evelyn. He was a beautiful person. Next slide. Okay, that is her family. I would say it's around 1942 because Ms. Reeves is the little girl on the left side that's in her father's arms. And the youngest, you only see 8 siblings in that picture because the youngest one, who is her brother, his name is Hubert Reeves. He's a deacon in the church at St. John, same church he went to. Hubert is a Vietnam veteran. He's a graduate of Brunswick County Training School, just like his sister, class of 1964. Now, you got to remember, she graduated in 1957. Jim Crow was hot on the circuit in 1957. To even do some of the things that you're going to find out that she did, and Harold touched on in 1957, was a miracle in itself. And the picture was actually black and white. I threw a little color to it. But the gentleman On the right side, on the far left, on the right side is my classmate, good friend and relative, Marion Reeves. That is his father. And Marion, can you hear? I guess he's muted. But this was their picture. Now, notice one thing. Most of the time, people think that they don't have pictures. I don't know too many pictures that was taken as a family photos by blacks during that era. But there is one right there. The only one that's missing, as I said, was the youngest one, that's Hubert, because Hubert wasn't born yet. Next slide, please. This is St. John's Missionary Baptist Church. Now, this is not the one where she went. This is the same building, but when she was going to church, like most of us back in the 50s, the church was wooden. This is a modern view of the church. And in the Black community, the church was a center point. If there was no church, there was no community. It was like, as I've said before, it's like a little stop off side the road. Every town, Bolivia, Southport, whatever, the church was it, because our grandparents and our parents, they were deeply faith driven. And trust me, if you try to hang out and not go to church, you had to be sick, so sick that you was about on deathbed before you could get out of that. And if you tried to get out, and when all the other kids came back home, and you figure you go out and play with the rest of them, no, you were staying inside. Next slide, please. This is what is known as Piney Grove Head Start now. Harold alluded to Piney Grove School. That was a small school. It's almost like a little Rosenwald school where the kids from like grades 1, sometimes I think it went as far as grade 8, would go, and then they would transfer to the only Black high school at that time, which would be in Southport, Brunswick County Training School. Now, how they got there, when she was in school, they got there by bus. They had to ride a bus, and most of these kids they worked on farms. So what they had to do was, not only did they have to get up and go to school, they had to get up early, get their chores done, get breakfast, get on the bus, because the bus was always leaving way before school. Because I know I rode a bus from Havertown, and the kids in Southport now, if you're a fast walker, if school bells are ringing 10 minutes, you can take off 10 minutes before and you get there. But if you rode a bus, when those bus drivers came by, and they were all students, there were no adult bus drivers. If the bus driver came by, if you heard him blow that horn, and you were sitting down at the table and you just had a good plate of, for those that could afford it, sausage, eggs, and grits, and you didn't want, and cocoa, and you didn't want to leave that, guess what? They wasn't waiting on you. That bus left, and when the bus left, you had to make your own way to school, because if he didn't get there on time, he had to face dire consequences, like Mr. Alvin C. Cabinets for one. All right, next slide, please. This was Brunswick County Training School back in the day when Willie and Harold and a lot of others started school there, because they graduated in 57, so they started school way before 1957. This building, if you go to First Baptist Church and you stand on the northern side of First Baptist Church and turn due north, that's where that building was sitting at. That was a Rosenwald building. It was a 6-teacher classroom, and they kept adding on to it to educate the Blacks of Brunswick County, not just Southport, Brunswick County, Charlotte, Leland, Winnebago, Bolivia, all of these places. These kids, a lot of them had to get up and travel a long ways when they had the buses, but before that, they had to make their way by staying with a relative in Southport, or catching a bus, or some even walking. and staying with a relative throughout the week and then walk back home. I had a classmate, Thomas Brown. His father went in the military. He would walk from what is known as Snowfield, that's Leland area, and he would follow the old train track route in the Southport, stay with a relative, and he'd walk back on Fridays. Next slide, please. Childhood memories of Auntie. I put that in there because the next slide is my good friend and relative Marion and classmate Reeve talking about his aunt. So I just call this childhood memories of Auntie. Next slide, please.
Okay, I'm
Okay,
Marion, Aunt Willie Evelyn's, Dr. Willie Evelyn Reaves' nephew, her oldest nephew, the first nephew in the family, really. And I have some great memories of her. I know growing up, she was always real cheerful. You know, I know whenever I used to go over to Granny's across the highway, what we call Marcy and Lena Reeves, my grandmother and grandfather, I'd walk over there and come in, and Aunt Evelyn holler at me, "Hey, Stan, come here." And we talk and we laugh and joke. And then she'd always get to the point where she says, "I want to teach you something." And I said, "Okay, Auntie, what's that?" She told me, "Come sit down here beside the piano with me." And then she'd tap out some little keys and then tell me to do that. She'd tell me on whether they were C's or D's and stuff, which I really didn't understand. I was too young. But I had a curiosity about Aunt Evelyn because she was always so communicative. You know, she'd always pull me to the side and tell me things, you know, that I didn't know, you know, or she would think that I should know. And I know she used to always tell me about school, that school was the most important thing in my life, you know, besides church, of course. And she always told me, she said, you know, when you go to high school and graduate, she said, you don't have to worry. I've told your father, which is her older brother, Junior Reeves, that all your kids are going to go to school. I'm going to see to that. And believe it or not, if she hadn't passed when she did, I think we would have all went to school and gone a lot further than what we did, because I'm telling you, she was really the inspiration to the family, the educational part. She really was. She was just a good person, you know. Love her to death, miss her. Okay, Donnie, I think that's about it.
Okay, Liz, flip to the next slide.
Okay, I'm Marion. Yes, yes.
Okay,
Can you hear me?
this is class of 1957, but before I get to that, the reason why I put that slide in there, you could see the connection she had with her nephews, her siblings, children, and all that. And believe it or not, you know, he said they would have went further. There are lawyers in the family, there are designers in the family, all in that same family, and there are doctors in that family. That part he didn't tell you, but I know for sure because I have met him. And there are doctors, there are lawyers, educators, designers, all that. Now, this is a picture of the class of 1957. Now, Harold Johnson, who was talking on the very first slide, Liz, if you would take your pointer and go to the back row, if you don't mind, come on up, stop right there. That is Harold Johnson. He's right there. Now, that way, Liz, we had that pointer at a while ago, go back over. Is my cousin Charles Joyner. He was in the same. Go over some more to the right, to the other right. There you go. Come over some more, right there. No, go back. He was in the same class with her. He's since passed away also, and he was career Army medic. And there is Harold Davis, who was a local in the politics, but Dr. Willie Evelyn Reaves is on the very front row. So Liz, if you would point to the young lady with the glasses on, that is Dr. Willie Evelyn Reaves. There's only one in the front row that's got glasses. That is her right there. That was the lady that we're honoring today. And As Harold alluded, she was a Bible scholar. Now you got to remember, most of the stuff Harold is talking about is between the time they started school and when they graduated high school, because he went to New York, she went to Washington, D.C., and as I started putting the story together, I found out the reason for D.C., she had relatives there. And this was how Blacks back during the days of Jim Crow, how they got educations. One would blaze the trail. And she was the one that was going to blaze the trail for education to make sure that all of her siblings' children got themselves an education. Because remember, this is 1957. And the gentleman he was talking about, Senator Jordan, was B. Everett Jordan. He always called himself B. Everett Jordan because his first name was Benjamin. Now, think about this. You're talking 1958, 59. I don't know exact year because I'm still trying to get information from Howard. You write a letter to your senator, which that is your right, and he answers it. And that was amazing. She was discriminated at the post office in Washington, D.C. But she was such a strong person, and her family's values is she wasn't going to take that laying down. And so she wrote the letter. Senator Jordan read the letter. Evidently, it must have piqued someone's interest to see the letter from her. And he answered it, and the problem was taken care of, and she got the letter of apology. I wish I had my hands on a letter of apology, but there's a lot of things that is still missing because this lady was brilliant, but she lived for a short period of time. Because you got to remember, she went to a 2B school. Now, most high schools now are 5A or I don't know, 6A. They have a lot of stuff for academics as well as sports, biology, all these things. She went to a 2B school, which had a very limited budget, but what she accomplished is amazing. Next slide, please. Rental box 116, Bolivia, North Carolina. Liz called me. She said, "What is that?" That was when Dr. Reeves graduated from Howard University in 1968. Normally, the seniors, they have like a listing of their addresses and things of that nature. So I guess if some of the other seniors look back in their senior yearbook and said, you know what, I need to contact so-and-so. I wonder what their address is. And that was it. It says rental box 116, Bolivia, North Carolina. I'm used to seeing P.O. box so-and-so, but this said rental box, and that's why I put that in. Next slide, please. Living the dream. Her dream was to move to Washington, D.C. And what I found out is because she had relatives there and she wanted a better life for herself. That's what everyone wants. All Americans in this country who were born in here and the ones that move here come for that same reason, for a better life for themselves and to be a productive citizen. Another one I put, living her dream, was being accepted at Howard University. For those of you that don't know, Howard University was one of the most prestigious universities for Blacks. Still is. And so to be accepted at Howard while she's working at the post office. Now, can you imagine? She's working at the post office and her boss is, saying, well, if you do a good job and work hard, in about 20 years, you might move up 2 or 3 pegs on the ladder. And at the same time, Dr. Reeves is thinking, I got news for you. I'm going to college. I'm going to get an education. I don't intend to be throwing letters in mail bins all the rest of my life. And then I think the other one that she has was being accepted at Howard University School of Dentistry, which from the information I read was another prestigious school because in the South, Shaw in the old days, because it had the first medical school, and Howard were two of those. Next slide, please. What you're looking at there is, it was June the 7th, 1968, Howard University Commencement Program, College of Dentistry, Doctors of Dental Surgery. I put a black dot beside her name. These were some of the graduates. I have been trying to see if I can catch some of these or find them. It's sort of difficult, even though I have ancestry. But there's her name, Willie Evelyn Reaves. You know, that had to be a proud achievement. And what made it even so much prouder was both of her parents were living at the time when she finished college and picked up her Doctor of Dental Surgery degree. I can imagine. I don't know if they were there, but I can imagine the pride that they felt that their daughter, coming from a little town called Bolivia, North Carolina, going to school, a little school called Piney Grove, then going to another little small school called Brunswick County Training School, because at the time, when she first started school, even though she was going to Piney Grove, that was the only black high school in the whole county. In 1950, they opened up Lincoln and Union. But this is a great accomplishment. And can you imagine the church service at St. John's when she graduated? If they had a piano or organ, I think they were picking those, hitting those keys to death, because they were so happy that she made it. Next slide, please. This is a picture of Dr. Reeves, and this is the trustees of Howard University. I can read part of it because I've got those things in the way of mine, but this is her degree. Now, that, when you see someone hanging that up, it's like any doctor. When you go in a doctor's office, one of the first things you see is their degree hanging up, what school they went to, and all of that. I mean, you know, if your favorite doctor and you thought he went to University of North Carolina, and then you found out he went to Duke, well, it all depends, you know, if it's like his bedside manner, so you forgive him for being from Duke, or vice versa. But that was a proud accomplishment in this day, in that day and era. Now, you remember, Civil Rights Bill, I think, was signed in 1964. This is 1968. 4 years after she'd achieved her goal, becoming a dental surgeon. And Harold also alluded to that she opened up a private practice for 6 months. And then something told her to go back from whence you came, basically, and to help educate. And so she wound up teaching back at Howard University's dental school. Liz, flip this to the next slide. And in 1970, because remember, this is 68, 2 years later, she's married. Her husband, Mr. Edward Darnell Turpin. Now, Mr. Turpin was a former U.S. Marine. He also was an educator in the Washington, D.C. school system. Now, by looking at the size of him and knowing that he was a former Marine, chances are he didn't get much of a problem out of his students, I don't think. And we had, I had been looking and doing a story on Mrs. Reeves for a long time, and I wish I had started earlier, because in 2016, he passed away. Now, Dr. Willie Evelyn Reaves died before that. Flip to the next slide, would you, Liz? Okay, instructor at Howard University School of Dentistry. When I saw that, as I was looking, and I'm gonna not spoil, I'm not going to get ahead of myself. I realized that children were her calling, was her calling. Harold said that she was a Bible scholar. That was when she was young. She was reading and studying the Bible because what he told me was when they were in school before they both left in 1957, shortly after they graduated. But she was young and she was into the word back then. And it's amazing. And that's why she went back as an instructor at the University School of Dentistry in Howard. Next slide, please, Liz. December the 21st, 1972. That date, I can easily remember that because I had a first cousin. His name was Robert Earl Brown. He was born on December the 21st. And I think the beginning of winter is around December the 21st each year. December the 21st, 1972 was a year that the Reeve family will not forget for a long time. Next slide, please, Liz. The newspaper read in Washington, D.C., dentistry instructor at Howard University, Dr. Willie Reaves Turpin, 32, an instructor of children's dentistry at Howard University Dental School, died Wednesday of an acute coronary thrombosis at Andrews Air Force Base Hospital, Camp Spring, Maryland. I can only imagine her family when they got that news that she'd passed away. 32 years old. That's young. Between Harold, Marion, and myself, we got shoes that's older than 32 years. But to show you, this woman did more in 32 years than a lot of us done in 42, 52, 62, 72, 82, maybe 92 years. But it goes to show you how circumstances can change real quickly. But she was, from what I've gathered so far, and I did make some headway into Howard, and I've got some live voices I'm talking to now, and we're going to follow this story because I want to get pictures of her while she was teaching at Howard, because I know they have them in there, and I'm going to try to reach out to the Turpin family if I can, and see if we can't get more on Dr. Willie Evelyn Reaves. But what made me so proud is she was from North Carolina, one. She's from Bolivia because that's my mother's hometown, Bolivia. And the mere fact of what she accomplished, that put pressure on every one of her nieces and nephews, whether they knew it or not. Because if she could do it, they could do it. And think about it. You worked at the post office, and then you're going to school, dental school. Now, Dr. Hayden can attest to going to any type of school when it comes to the medical field. That's why they have gray hair early. No offense, Doc. I ain't saying your hair is gray, but there's a lot of work involved with that. I mean, you just don't get that. That's why it really sometimes angers me when I see people get on television during this COVID time. That's the reason why we're on Zoom right now. And they're acting as if they're experts on the disease, how to cure it and how to fight it. And most of them only went to YouTube University. They went there for about 6 weeks, they graduated, and now they're medical field. But I just thought that this was a compelling story that needed to be told, and Southport and Brunswick County needed to know that this young lady, what she accomplished in a short period of time, 32 years. Next slide, please, Liz. This is sort of a recap of sort of like, where are they now? Now, I have in blue, the ones that are deceased, is Marion David Reaves Sr. That was her father. He died in 1980. Now, just imagine, it was 1980 when he died. So when he got the news that his daughter, he was alive. Lena Merritt Reeves, she died in 1998. Both her parents was living when she passed away. Marion David Reeves Jr., that's Marion's father, he died in 2003. He worked a long time for the shipyard at Newport News, and he was a minister with his church. Alvin Leo Reeves, her brother, 1967, in a drowning. Now, Howard Daniel Reeves, and I think I missed, but yeah, I did. I forgot the E in there. He died in 1951 in Wilmington. And Niecy D. Reeves died in 1988. And the one that I knew of those that are deceased was Annie C. Reeves. Her family calls her Kit because I used to go to some of the Reeves family get-togethers when I found out that I was kin to them on Marion on his mother's side. And on the 4th of July, after the parade, I made my way out to Bolivia because they always had fish, shrimp, you name it. They had a big to-do out there, and she used to be there. And I remember when she played in the band at BCT. She died in 2019. Still living is Miss Johnny Lee Reeves. I believe she lives in Washington, D.C. Maddie Reeves is in Bolivia, and Hubert S. Reeves. And I put in there a United States Marine Corps veteran and a deacon at St. John's Church. If you ever meet Hubert Reeves, you'll never forget him because he's a nice person. Class of 64, Brunswick County Training School. Next slide, please. Okay, we have some unfinished business here. We want to thank our sponsors, who are the Brunswick Arts Council, the North Carolina Arts Council, the City of Southport, and the City of Southport's tourism. I can't thank the mayor, his staff, and all of them for what they do. I mean, you know, it's a tireless job. It's to put on something like this, and it's like some of the ones like the one last night, it requires community support. Without community support, I would probably be talking to a handful of people. And since I can't do it live anymore, I'd have to probably talk to them on the telephone, and it wouldn't be the same. And I can't thank the Southport Historical Society enough. Dr. Liz Fuller, who's the president, a good friend of mine, and Dr. Bob Surridge, another good friend of mine, and he's the one that has it on Facebook. And now what I'd like to do is, I've got these two gentlemen on here. I don't want to put them on the spot because they know where I live at. One is Harold Johnson. You saw him at first. And the other one is Dr. Reeves's nephew, Marion. So Marion, since you up on the line first, I'm gonna let you go. By the way, Marion is down in, he's in another state right now. He has some damage to his home there, but he does come here a lot. And, this is his home. So Marion, do you have anything else you'd like to add about your aunt, Willie Evelyn?
Well, no, yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, yeah. Like at first, pictures you showed where you had the swings. It
Yes.
reminded me of the swing that she used to swing me on, you know, that was right in front of the house. You know, as you come to my house now there in Bolivia,
Right.
you see that big stump. That tree, that pecan tree, was planted by my grandfather, Mossy Reeves' sister, when she was 8 years old. And she died when she was 88. And I was still a teen when she died. So that swing on that tree is what is one of the most memories I have of her, because she used to always love, like I said, is play with me and tell me things definitely about education that I need to do and try to do, and to try and stay out of trouble. Because see, believe it or not, that was one thing she didn't want us to get into, was trouble a lot. And she'd always bribe us with cookies, you know, but it was a beautiful thing, man. So it's remarkable that you have found this much information about my aunt, which is beautiful. I appreciate what you're doing, Donnie. I really do. Not only for my family, but for all the historical stuff that you are digging up and finding. I tell all of our classmates, and we meet, as you know, we meet once a month according to whose birthday it is. And the very thing we do, we call you the historian. You know, so that's a badge that you should be proud of. And thank you again.
Well, thank you, Marion. I have to pay you later. I mean, you know, it's remarkable. All of us went different ways. We had some classmates that went off to the Vietnam War. Some came back and they never came back. And then all of a sudden, now that we're in ours, I guess I can say our senior years, we all hang out once a month when our birthdays are, and we have a little dinner. And the good thing about it, when it's your birthday, you don't have to pay.
That's right.
But if it's not your birthday, you got to pay. And so I thank you for that. And I do this because I think it's something that needs to be done. And actually, I love doing it because my inspiration was two people, three. My dad, Ralph Parker, and Mr. Anthony Leroy Davis, who used to always tell me when we were in his history class, he'd sometimes be writing on the board and we'd be doing something behind his back that we wasn't supposed to. And he would say, Mr. Joyner, yes, sir. He said, 2 heads are better than one, even if one is a cabbage head. And he'd turn back around and go back to writing again. And that stuck. Thanks, Marion. And now, Harold.
Donnie? Oh, I'm sorry, Donnie.
Go
I
ahead.
had a question for Marion, if that's okay.
Yes.
So I'm just curious. So when Donnie was first telling me about Willie Evelyn, I did a little bit of looking, and because I didn't really understand the significance of her becoming a dental surgeon. And then I did a little bit of research, and I found out at that time that only about 2% of dentists at that time were women. And then maybe 2% of that were African American. So it really brought home what a trailblazer she was, and what a pioneer, and how much courage she must have had. And I just wondered if you had any insight into, you know, how she got this dream, where she got the motivation, the gumption, because my understanding is she grew up on a farm in Bolivia, right? So she would never have seen a woman dentist, you know. Just wonder if you had any idea.
Right. Well, believe it or not, she was always curious. She was always trying to find out why things were the way they were, of all of my aunts and uncles. And she even encouraged, believe me, she even encouraged my father and her older sister for education. But see, here's what happened. My father, believe it or not, I think he was the oldest of 7 or 13 or whatever it was. He had to quit school in the 11th grade to support the family, you know. But he always instilled in us, the family. I'm the oldest of 7 of his kids. And he'd always instill in us, go to school. Don't stop going to school. Like my brother is a lawyer. My sister manages one of the federal buildings in DC. I have another sister that works on one of the insurance companies. I have another brother that works in the financial industry in Florida. So and I've got one that works in the nuclear services. So we are all striving to try and do what mom and dad wanted us to do, but it all stemmed from our nucleus family. My grandfather and my father, my aunts and uncles, they've always encouraged all of us. Education is the only way to better yourself, which I found to be true, you know? So that's what it is. I mean, I come from a loving family. God knows I come from a loving family, you know? And I'm so appreciative of that. I don't know what to do. You know, in fact, my aunt's house, he was telling me about my youngest aunt, Kit, Annie Carolyn. And in fact, I'm staying in her house now. She passed in 19, and I came, and I'm there in Carolina now. I have to come down here every once in a while because I have my youngest son is down here in New Orleans, and he works for the airport. He's in IT at Louis Armstrong Airport, and I still comes down here, the house down here to take care of business, and I'm back there. But I'll tell you something. I love Bolivia. I love home. There is no place like home, you know. There really is, you know. And I'm so thankful. And like I said, I'm so thankful to have friends and classmates like Donnie and others. They're remarkable people. They are, and plus, they're relatives.
Well, and thank you. And I also thought your story about her, whenever you would go visit her, that she would want to teach you something. I thought that was really, gave a lot of insight into her, that she then turned around and became an educator. It must have been a natural inclination within her to want to turn around and teach others. She practiced for a little while, and then she found her true passion in teaching. And she obviously had always had that, since she always took you by the hand and wanted to teach you things. So thank you for giving that extra insight into her.
No problem, none whatsoever.
All right, Harold. Don't try to hide, Harold. I see you over there.
Just left the room, Donnie.
Harold, first of all, I want to say thank you, as well as to Marion, which I'll do that in a few minutes, for doing what you did. And I know that when you were going to school, because we talked the other night, and by the way, Harold knows quite a bit, but you have to do it like you do me. You have to pull it out of him, because I had forgot that he drove a bus. And you see, Harold was driving buses, and Marion drove a bus.
Yes.
But that's that. Harold drove a bus when the students were driving. There were no adults driving. It was the students driving the buses. And Harold, now I know when I talked to you before, you said that Willie Evelyn was a great student. You also mentioned, which I'd actually cut out that clip, you remembered the name of the principal at Piney Grove Elementary School. What was his name again?
I don't know if they call him doctor or not, but his name was E.A. Armstrong.
E.A. Armstrong.
E.A. Armstrong. Yes, he was the principal of Piney Grove when we went there. Right.
And I know you mentioned that one of your favorite teachers, and I don't think you get in trouble, because I think most of your teachers, like most of mine, are no longer with us. You mentioned Miss Letty Galloway as one of your teachers, and that part, because I had to sort of, for time, I'd taken out, you said, now they all were good, because you see, I can tell, Harold, when you went to school, you're just like me. Your teachers were your teachers, and you didn't want nothing to get back to your parents or your teachers that you talked about one. That's why you said, well, they all were good.
Yes, but I mentioned her specifically because she did something that I was very surprised. I was young, but I was raised to recognize and tell the truth and listen to your elder people. Miss Galloway invited me to come stay with her at her home right there in Winterbork, Lanny S. Galloway, Van Air, and Poncetta. And I'll never forget that. I was young, but that's why I never forget. Well, she stood out. She was such a beautiful person. That's why I mentioned that night. And also, I don't know what more you got to ask me, but before I forget, as when you asked me about participating in this memorial in memory of Willie Evelyn, I mentioned you the fact that my memory was very short, just as short as my hair, you know, so I didn't remember that much. You got long hair, you got long memory. And as I was talking with you, Donnie, you know everything from A to Z. I mean, you're great at it. It's unbelievable. And you did a great job of putting this together in memory of Willie Reaves. You did a fantastic job. And I thank you for asking me to participate and guide me through what I needed to do.
You're welcome, Harold. We've got just a few more minutes left. I want to first start off.
Donnie, I'm sorry, can I ask one more question?
Sure, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I don't know if it's for you or for Harold, but I had a question about the discrimination that she experienced at the post office. Do you know whether that was because she was African American or because she was a woman? or both? Do you know?
No, I don't know the case, what the case was. This information was passed on to me
Mm-hmm.
and from reputable people. And they, when I was doing my research to find out more about Willie Evelyn, they brought that up and asked me to mention that she was discriminated against. I don't know why and what the case was, but she fought and she went to the senator and everything was taken care of. I don't know if it's,
That's wonderful. Maybe we can find something in the senator's papers at some point. But I just noticed, because it was 1968, it was also not just 4 years after civil rights, but it was also, just the start of women's liberation too. So there was a lot of discrimination, and she was in 2 categories. So
Yeah.
okay, Donnie, I'll be quiet.
Yeah, that's no problem. I like when you ask questions. You're right, Liz, because you remember a week or so ago, I threw a hint about Senator B. Everett Jordan, because Liz, by the way, is a crackerjack. Dr. Liz Fuller is a crackerjack with solving cases. I mean, she's the Perry Mason of solving things in history. And we will be working on that, getting back and trying to find out, because Senator Jordan has a lot of papers to go through. So that will be a project that we will be working on, because I do intend to bring Dr. Reeve's story even further out with pictures and things of that. And if there's any writings that she did that Howard has, to get them, if they would, to release them to us. And I finally got a live person to talk to. In fact, she called me yesterday, and so that's a great thing. All right. Always.
Can I say one more thing, Donnie?
Yes. Oh, by all means.
And Willie Evelyn was my favorite classmate. And it was one good reason I say that. I knew she was very smart. When came time for testing, taking the test, whatever test it was, I made it my business to make sure I got a seat close to my classmate so I could do good on my grades. And I was fantastic on my work. I wouldn't say it before now, but I cheated a little bit, thanks to her.
Well, Harold, I hate to tell you this, it's all live on Facebook now, that you was rubbernecking on your classmates' papers so you get a better grade. And Mr. Frank, was Mr. Frank teaching at BCT then? Mr. James Frank?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, if he sees this, he may have to go back and change your grade. Well, guys, thank you so much for the help. Definitely to my cousin Marion, and he's right. Most of the classmates, we were relatives, but we didn't know it when we was in school.
That's right.
We found out later. And some of us found out the hard way when you got ready to bring your date home, or you went by somebody's house to see your girlfriend. And the first thing they asked you said, well, who's some of your people? Well, my mother is, and my deal was at the time, and not that I had a lot of dates when and I said, my father's William Joyner, and the next thing I would hear, okay, get up, you got to go. Y'all can, oh Lord. I learned a long time ago, don't mention the name, because for eons, Marion and I were very good friends.
That's right.
And we both drove Mustangs, green Mustangs. We both worked at Dozier, and then we worked at New Hanover. He went in the Army after Cape Fear. He got drafted in the Army. I ate my way out from going. And he went north, I went south. And it wasn't until, oh my goodness, I was retired basically. And I was over at his house. He came home from Louisiana. And we were talking, and he said, yeah, my great-grandfather lived in Zion Hill. So I said, what? I said, my great-grandfather lived in Zion Hill. And I said, well, what was your great-grandfather's name? He said, Ben Ford. I said, mine was Joseph Monroe. So he calls his mother, Miss Hazeline, who was a Forward. And she says, he's in our family tree. I go, huh? And she gave me a book and she said, my sister Joyce has copies. So I said, how much? She said, $10. That's the best $10 ever spent, because I saw my great grandfather. And then oh my God. And then people were still in doubt, saying, well, are you sure? And well, I've taken DNA tests. And when they started taking DNA tests, they all matched up. And that's because of the Civil War, which will be something that we'll be talking about next with the reenactors. But yeah, most of us are family. So around here, I always tell them to tread lightly. And I told my daughter, if you ever decide to get married, first of all, find out where they're from. If they're from southeastern North Carolina, get a DNA test right away, because they're probably one of her relatives. I want to thank everybody for this. This has been enjoyable for me. Again, I want to thank God, thank my wife for putting up with me, my cousin Marion, Howard Johnson. I mean, Harold Johnson. How did I get Howard in there? Well, I'm thinking about ice cream. Never mind. Harold Johnson, Dr. Hayden, City South, all our sponsors and the viewing audience. And I see my daughter is on there again. Hi, Rhonda. She's on, and I'm just so appreciative. Now, next we'll have, starting at 4:30, it will be about Battery B, 2nd Regiment, United States Colored Light Artillery reenactors. These gentlemen have been with us from the very first, and even in Zoom. And we'll have that on at about 4:30. I had a few technical glitches in that, trying to get it out, because I got a lot of color in that one. And I went in, I compacted the file, and I tried to send it to Liz. So Liz and I are gonna work on it. I'm gonna have to show it straight from my computer. But it's amazing some of the things that they've done. And one of the things we'll be talking about is a statue called Boundless. Boundless is at the Cameron Art Museum, and it's all about the United States Colored Troop. And one of the soldiers is about the Battle of the Forks Road. And I happened to look into this book that I have, that I bought. It was the best $19 I spent. I found the name Caesar Evans. And for those in Bolivia, everybody knows Caesar Evans. He's in here. He was at the Battle of the Forks Road. Now, I did find a gentleman in here by the name of Henry Joyner, but I don't know whether that's my great-grandfather or not. But there's a lot of them, and I'm going to get with Chris Farmville, because I would like Chris, maybe when we go live, if we do something about the, have it only on the United States Colored Troop. While I was over there at that dedication, I also picked up this book. I'm advertising this for Chris Farmville. So Chris, if you're out there, you might want to give me a discount on my next order. And the book is called Glory at Wilmington, the Battle of Forks Road. These were United States Colored Troops. And it's amazing when you find out these things. For years, when I was in school, I never knew that they had a group called the United States Colored Troop, let alone that my great-grandfather was one of them. And I did go to Washington, D.C., and he is on that plaque. So thank everyone. Thank all our sponsors again. And don't forget, we're sending donations to the New Hope Clinic here in Brunswick County. They do a great job. And for anyone who does not, and I repeat, does not have insurance, and you're under the age of 65, and you need to go see a doctor, don't put it off. That's what these people are here for. So again, I really want to thank you for listening in. And there it is. Liz has it up here on the screen. Liz is, and Bob is my two go-to people. We work together with the Historical Society. I owe them so much now that I can't leave, because if I did, they might want to foreclose on everything, including my hair. What I want people to do is don't send it to the Historical Society or the Black History Symposium. Send it to the addresses you see here. And in the line, it says, you can put in there the 10th Annual Brunswick County Black History Symposium. The young lady was on last night, and there's a link on their website that where you can donate now. They take PayPal, even if you don't have PayPal. They just do a great job, and I know because I've carried people up there. And these are things that years ago you didn't have. If you didn't have no money to go see a doctor, or you couldn't afford it, and the doctor wouldn't, and no doctor that I know of would refuse treating you, whether you had money or not. But this is designed just for that. And the other day when I was over there were quite a few people coming in. Some were diabetics, and they get their medicine and all over. And they do such a wonderful job, and that's why we picked them this year. So we're gonna say good night for now.